Hey everybody. Let's see. Yeah, just a couple minutes late. I had to reconnect my earbuds. Um, had to fix something, but should be okay now. We will do the usual 5-minute wait before we start. So any questions, leave it in the comments. Masiak has put a question in there already, so we'll get to that in probably 5 minutes or so. So sit tight for that. Hey Tom. Yeah, we'll just let people funnel in as usual. Let me set this thing up. Alrighty. Wait like 3 more minutes or so. Hey, hey Brian. Hey Griff. Hey RMF. Hey Bill. Yeah, we'll get to that question in a few minutes. We'll let people funnel in as usual. Hey Erwin. Glad you're enjoying them. Glad the videos are helping. Hey Hash. Yep, we'll get to that question shortly. Let me just see the angles okay here. Should be okay. Yeah, should be okay there. Let me grab some water, guys. Yeah, just stick around for a couple more minutes and we'll start. All right, 3:27. We'll start in 1 minute and 30 seconds, guys. So just hang tight for a little longer. See some questions already rolling in, so that's good. Yeah, keep putting the questions in. We'll start from the top up as usual. We'll probably have time for 45 to 50 minutes today. So put the questions in while you can. I will answer as many as I can until around 6:50, 6:55 or so, and then we'll go from there. So let's see how it goes. All right, let's just start now. Let's start now, guys. So let's start from the top. Masiak is correct me if I pronounce your name incorrectly, but I'm going to assume Masiak. Can you please explain best way to practice timing your driver on impact that balloon lots of drivers off the tee? So it's not really so much about timing your driver at impact. Is more so what can you do to help yourselves line up impact better more often than not? Okay? You're not trying to time something that's happening way too fast. If you balloon drivers, more often than not, you're hitting down on it too much so let's just say this is the face, right? The more down you hit on it, the more the top line is leading the way to the ball. you want to try to release your angles. You want to down hinge, release your angles earlier so that you can return more of the true loft of the driver back into impact versus delivering the driver head like this, okay? More often than not, if people who balloon shots, driver's coming down too much wrist angles, which is why the driver is coming into the fade ball like this as opposed to returning to the ball with more square, with more the true loft. So I would recommend you could tee the ball lower so that only 1/3 of the ball is actually above the top line, and then making sure you're releasing your angles and down hinging to start the downswing and see how that goes. That should help you hit less balloons off the tee with your driver. So Bill, struggling a bit with pre-extension, my head comes up too early and my swing best exercise to stop, to drop. So I'm assuming you are talking about your backswing if it's happening too early. I'm okay if the head comes up a bit in the backswing because it actually gives you more opportunity to come back down. If you're talking about the downswing, it's really you have to feel like what you do in the swing is you get to the top and you try to get lower with the upper body and head. Okay, you can see as I do that, my butt goes back. Okay, from the top of your backswing, you have to feel like butt back, chest down to start the downswing. That's all you can do really if you feel like your head's coming up too soon in the downswing. Head coming up a bit in the backswing is totally cool because, like I said, it gives you space to come back down. You just gotta go, like literally force yourself to go down with the upper body and head while your butt goes back. And then see how that goes from there, Bell. Hash, hey Larry, any tips on getting hip depth in backswing? So hip depth in the backswing, it's not too hard to do really. So when you set up, both hips are pretty much pointing at the ball, right? So for as you make your backswing, we want the trail hip to go back. It's literally just turning your trail hip back, letting the trail leg straighten and loose flex. More often than not, people who don't get the trail hip back is because they're not letting the trail leg straighten and loose flex. They're trying to maintain flex. So if you're trying to maintain the flex, the trail hip has nowhere to go. You may feel like you're turning, but in reality, it's your lead hip going forward and your lead leg dipping down. So sure, it may look like I'm turning because you see more of my pelvis, but that's not turning. That's just you moving in random ways to make yourself feel like you're turning. You want to make sure from setup, you turn your trail hip back, trail leg straighten and loose flex. It's not going to lock out, but it does have to straighten and loose flex for you to get that trail hip depth. Okay, so try that out. Hash, hope that makes sense. Michael, what is the theory on trail left staying flex versus straightening? I'm assuming you're talking about the trail leg staying flex versus straightening, but I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. Like we don't want the trail leg to keep any flex in the backswing. We want the trail leg to straighten so that you can turn properly in the backswing. If the trail leg maintains flex, like I was just saying to Hash, if your trail leg is maintaining flex, you can't turn your hip back properly. So we definitely don't want your trail leg to maintain its flex. We want it to straighten and loose flex. It's not going to lock out, but it does have to straighten and loose flex. Let me just go spit out my gum quickly, guys. I'll be right back. Alrighty, so Brandon is asking, hey Larry, what's the key differences between getting deep in the backswing and being too flat and inside? So like really now, as long as you're like in terms of flatness, right? Some people think about flatness as the shaft being too flat. Some people think about flatness as the hands getting too far back, right? So as long as you're getting depth through the turn and not getting depth by just shoving your arms back for most people, you're going to be okay. If you keep your arms are in front of your chest at setup. If you maintain that relationship and turn your hands, you're not going to be too flat. We want the lead shoulder covering your shoulders. Lead arm covering your shoulders. Your trail forearm roughly 90 degrees to the ground. If your trail arm is like that, sure, you may be too flat if you look something like this. But for the most part, as long as you keep your arm unit in front of your chest, you're not going to be too flat. And also making sure you're not rotating your forearms too much, okay? The shaft getting flat in the backswing is because people rotate the forearms too much. Clockwise is a righty, counterclockwise is a lefty. If you feel no forearm rotation, you can see the shaft is much steeper as I turn, and we can get depth through the turn instead of trying to fake the depth with just shoving the arms back. Okay, so that's how we make sure we get depth without getting too flat. So hope that helps, Brandon. Erwin, any plans visiting the U.S. in the future after pandemic? No plans. We'll see. We'll see when after pandemic happens first. We'll take it one day at a time. Just trying to stay alive here. So we'll see when that day comes, Erwin. Adam, you're welcome. You're welcome. Glad you are enjoying it, Adam. Zach, what do you see as the main cause of toe strikes? How to fix? Typically, toe strikes happen. Two common things you can look at first. So one, we know that the toe strikes happen because the club is getting too close to the body. Okay, so you have to figure out why this club is getting closer to your body. One thing is your hands getting too close to your body. So you have to find out why your hands are getting too close to the body in a downswing. So if you make your backswing, assuming everything's decent, if your hands pull down too much as you try to swing, that could make the toe strikes happen because your hands are coming down too vertically and you're not using the rotation to bring the arms back to the ball. Okay, that's one. Number two, you could potentially also be standing up out of it. So as your body gets further from the ball, the hands will follow, and then the club follows, you're going to hit it off the toe as well. So those two things that we'll look at first, making sure, one, you're not pulling your hands down, because when you pull your hands down, you could swing inside the ball too much. Or two, I would think about not making sure you're not standing up too much in the downswing. Those would be the two common things to look at first if you are hitting it on the toe too often. Demon Dad, I'm losing my sim right a lot with a 70-gram stiff. I hit my fairway straight. Could it be shaft is too heavy? Hard to say unless you try it. I mean, it's not really my specialty to answer that question. I think the guys at TXG would answer the question a lot better than I would. But you'll never know until you try, right? So if you hit your fairway straight and you feel like the shaft is too heavy, you maybe should try some things out. Worst case scenario, it doesn't help, but you find out that the shaft, it might not be a shaft heaviness, it just might be a swing thing. But if there's doubt in your head, you have to find the answer. You have to try things out. You maybe get a fitting, who knows? But you have to try to remove those doubts ASAP before that doubt breeds into other issues. RMF, I have a problem with collapsing my wrist at the top of my backswing and I have to try to fix that for 2 years. Got a drill for not doing that. I'd like to see more club like you have in your swing. So the easiest thing to do that is making sure you feel no hinge, right? Honestly, almost everyone I ask, you feel no hinge, they're still gonna hinge. But feeling no hinge reduces the amount of hinge you have. So I would make sure when you're gripping it firmer, both hands equally firm on the club. To make sure your wrists are firm so it doesn't get loose at the top. And then making sure you feel no hinge. Like go slower in the backswing, making sure your arms and hands are moving at the same speed as your torso turn is. And then making sure that you have no hinge. That will really, really help. More often than not, when people hinge too much and collapse their wrist, it's either the grip is too loose, the wrist is too loose, or they make their backswing too quick, and then the weight at the end of the club head just pulls their wrist into a bad position if they're trying not to hinge. So I will look at those things first, RMF. Brian, I'm heavily considering joining online coaching. However, I'm trying to follow your videos on how to squat and cast my wrist, and I cannot follow along. I've tried to go slow for the last week. Would I not be a good candidate for your lessons? I mean, I think most people will be a good candidate for my lessons if they want to get better and they have the time to devote to actually working on things. If you're not following along the YouTube videos, it just may seem like you need more personalized instruction. You may be trying to implement the wrong things at the wrong time, or you might just be trying to implement it incorrectly. I've said before in these videos, the YouTube videos are very general. I try to help as many people out as I can with these videos. It's very general. It helps a big population, but it is still up to you guys to try to incorporate it properly. So if you're having trouble incorporating it properly, then the lessons will definitely help. So I would say it's something that you can definitely look into if you want to try to take online lessons with me, Brian. So you can email me at larry@larrycheunggolf.com, and I can give you more info on what how the online lessons work. Aaron, skying my driver decently. I'm assuming you're saying recently. Can you give me some advice? So I think I answered that question earlier in this chat. If you're skying your driver and assuming the tee height's not too high, but let's just say you're skying your driver, I would tee the ball up lower so that only a third of the ball is above the top line. I would then make sure you're releasing and downhinging your angles. Okay, you want to downhinge and release your wrist angles so that the club comes from a better spot behind you, so that you return the loft of the driver back to the ball of impact. People who pop it up on the top line, often they hit down on it too much, or they hold on to their wrist angles for too long. So when they hold on the wrist angles, the loft does not return. It's the top of the driver that returns to the ball first. So down hinging and releasing the club early in the downswing will help if you are skying your driver. Drew, hey Larry, trouble maintaining any shaft lean on my irons, hit the ball really high, ideas on fields or drills. There's multiple things that can make you not lean the irons at impact. I would definitely make sure that your lead wrist is staying flat in your downswing, making sure the club head's staying behind you. Usually people who have the club head trailing their hands well in the downswing would be able to return with more shaft lean. So how that would look is if the club is shallowing out behind the hands, that would typically make the lead wrist more flat to bowed. And as the club travels back and down, that should be able to be a recipe to get your lead wrist flat with enough shaft lean. So you can see from the face-on view, if I let the club go back and down behind as I turn, I'm able to get shaft lean, okay? People think you have to hold onto your wrist angles to get shaft lean. That's probably gonna hurt you more than help. If you try to hold on the wrist angles, you're very steep and you're probably gonna dump it out later on unless you wanna chunk the hell out of it. So really making sure that from here, if you get the club head traveling back and down as you turn through the ball, that is a good feel for you to try to get more shaft lean at impact. That would be what I would try to do first, based on what you're telling me. Keith, as someone who pulls the handle and steepens the shaft, I know mechanically what is supposed to happen in shallow the club. My brain has the hit it impulse. Advice to drill to reset that instinct. I would make sure. So if you're steep, especially with if you're steep, I would really make sure you release the angles early. That's one, because releasing the angles early allows the body to move through the ball with the movement, and the ball just gets in the way. If you're maintaining your angles, you're going to have a hit instinct. So really, it just becomes trying to start it at a slow speed, hitting it at 10% speed. 10% speed, like literally just chipping through the ball, really. So I would make that same backswing, 10% speed, and then I would down hinge as I turn and just turn through the ball. You can see the goal is not to accelerate through the shot, right? You want to keep things as constant as you can. 10% speed backswing into 10% speed downswing, and then slowly work it up. So let's say you do 10 of those things, you're feeling better. Then you rev it up to 20% speed and just keep going up and going up and going up from there, right? That's all you can do if you have a hit instinct. It's going to take time. It's not going to disappear in just 1 week. It's going to take more than that. So just got to keep working at it from a slower speed. And if you feel like you want to hit it again, and then you're going too fast for what you're trying to do at that time in your progress. William, coach wants less hinge and backswing. Any drills for this other than field no hinge and right arm bend? Literally, you just have to feel no hinge. I mean, so if you think of it this way, if you hinge your wrist too much, your thumbs will point to the target at the top of your backswing. You gotta feel like your thumbs are pointing away from the target. If you feel like your thumbs are pointing away from the target, you're gonna be able to hopefully feel no hinge, so that you have less wrist hinge in your swing. So where the thumbs point is generally a good reference for people to try to reduce the wrist hinge if no hinge feel doesn't really work. So just think thumbs away from target at the top of the backswing. That should be able to help you reduce the amount of wrist hinge you have. DJ, trying to bow my left wrist more for consistency, Dustin Johnson like, but it seems like my wrists are too weak to hold that position through impact. So I don't think the goal of trying to bow your left wrist more is to hold that bowed position through impact. That's not really the case, right? Like if you're trying to be more consistent, you have to figure out why you're inconsistent. Bowing the left wrist isn't gonna be the recipe for everybody, and certainly even if you bow the left wrist at the top of the backswing, trying to hold it through that position through impact is probably also not the recipe to consistency. So whatever you're trying to do to find more consistency, you have to figure out what is causing the inconsistency. It could be a number of different things in your swing that's causing the inconsistencies before you even look at that lead wrist, that left wrist. So I would try to look into that first, DJ. Andrew, good evening, Andrew. What are your stack and tilt views, please? Are there positive and negatives to look out for? My backswing is always very flat, but willing, I think, to give it a try. I mean, there's a lot of good things going on with stack and tilt. There's a lot of good pieces in stack and tilt. So you just got to make sure whatever you're working on, you get the right pieces for yourself, right? That there's some people like it, some people don't. I'm not really on either side. I'm very neutral on these kind of things. They certainly help a lot of people out with their golf swings, and there's certainly a lot of good pieces in their golf swing as well. So you just got to figure out what you need. If you're guessing at it, you probably need to find someone to give you some guidance if you're unsure. So that's all I can really say about that, Andrew. Bob, what do you like to see with the hand path on the downswing? My hand path kicks out on the way down, and I frequently deliver the hosel. I don't lose the tush line in it, but I get good shaft lean. If you're kicking your hand path out on the way down too much and you're delivering the hosel, you got to keep your arms back more, right? Like for someone like you where you get the hosel to the ball very soon, you got to keep your arms back. So thinking about looping your arms back, I have quite a number of videos on the channel talk about looping it. I would suggest you try to loop your arms back in transition more, so your arm is stuck to your chest more back, so your hand path is more back, and it's deeper in the downswing, so that the hosel doesn't get thrown out towards the ball too much during the downswing. Because like at this point, like if you're like, doesn't matter if you don't lose your tush line, doesn't matter if you get good shaft, and if you keep hitting it on the hosel, then that's not really going to do you any good. So I would think about trying to loop things back more to reduce the likelihood of your hosel going back to the ball. Tough. Saw your club face video, no problems with the irons, but as soon as you go into the driver, you have trouble squaring. Feels like I can't turn through that much back to impact while I'm pulling the handle. So it sounds like you're just going at it too fast, really. I mean, I put the club face video up, I forgot, either today or yesterday. You're not going to be able to implement it just in one day, really. So you have to go at it slowly. You got to drill it out into the irons first. Once you get a good feel for it, then try to bring it into the driver. So there's going to be some missing pieces. You have to figure out what that missing piece is. Work at it a little bit and just see how it goes. But it's not likely you'll be able to fix it all in one day, unfortunately, as much as I want you to be able to. Marco, the top of the backswing, my right elbow looks to be in a good position in line with my hands, but in transition, my right elbow seems to flare out behind me. Any drills to help? So if your right elbow is decent at the top of the backswing, then your right elbow gets just flares out and separates from your left elbow, chances are you're pulling your hands down. So at the top of the backswing, you pull your hands down, your elbows will tend to separate. So you gotta figure out how to not pull your hands down. And really, the easiest thing to try to do, excuse me, the easiest thing to try to do is feel that loop that I was mentioning to Bob a couple of questions back. If you try to feel the loop, your elbows have to stay together because you're trying to get the club to shallow. And I talk about this in those looping videos on the channel. So I would suggest you look at those videos about the loop. That should help you keep your elbows more together in the downswing and help you not pull your hands down too much. You're welcome, Brandon. Erwin, my lead arm is in front of my chest from setup to downswing, but my ball goes 25 to 30 yards draw. How can I fix it? Well, but without seeing the swing, it's really hard to say what's going to fix it. Really, there's things that you can try to band-aid for. I mean, there's things that you can do to try to reduce that curvature, like reduce the face closing. You can try to hit balls with straight arm finish. Straight arm finish should help you reduce the face closing so that the ball will draw less. But without seeing the swing, it's very tough to say what exactly you have to do to fix it or decrease it. But straight arm finish is the first thing I will look at if you're trying to decrease the amount of draw curvature you have in your golf swing right now. You're welcome, Zach. I'm pretty sure I answered your question, RMF. I literally go down every single name right now, and I'll answer the questions as I see them. So I'm sure the question is in there, and it looks like you have caught it. Chris, is there such a bad thing as too much practice? Do rest days help lock in swing changes, or are they bad? Rest days are certainly important. I mean, if you're burnt out, if your mind's not in the right place, is practicing and hitting balls is probably doing more harm than good. So if you feel mentally fatigued, physically fatigued, taking a day off is certainly a good thing. So there's certainly a thing as too much practice if your mind and body is not ready or not in a great place to facilitate that practice. So, but we're doing the online coaching together now, so we will definitely try to get things on track, Chris. So we'll see how that goes, Chris. Brian, is it bad if you don't hinge at all in the backswing? I know you have your unhinged step, but what if you stop yourself from hinging at all? I haven't seen anyone that literally has zero wrist hinge in the backswing. It's very, very tough to do. I'd be very impressed if you actually pulled it off. But I wouldn't suggest literally having zero hinge because it kind of cuts the flow of things. So I would definitely not recommend like literally having zero hinge in your golf swing, Brian. Adam, squat and turn saved your game. Drills to improve timing or transition. So really happy to hear that. Drills to improve timing and transition. It's the timing aspect is so unique for everyone. You just have to figure out what works for you, right? You got to figure out from the top of your back when you squat and turn, and then you push back up and turn. Play around with when you squat, how much you squat, the intent of your squat, and then how that reacts to you pushing back up. You just got to play around with it without working with you or without you working with someone. You got to find your own timing when it comes to what works well for you. So a lot of experimenting may be the way. Tito, hi Larry. I fight early extension. Aside from opening my shoulders more, what else can I do? So really, like if you fight early extension, trying to open your shoulders up more is probably not the first step I would look at. I would make sure that you're trying to push your butt back and force your chest down, right? So early extension happens when your butt comes forward. So assuming you have a decent backswing, early extension is your pelvis and the butt goes forward and then your upper body stands up, right? You have to do the opposite. You have to feel like from the top of the backswing, you push your butt back and you can see my chest comes more downwards and more on an incline. That's how you fight early extension. You got to literally do the opposite of what early extension is. Early extension is this way, butt in, chest up. We want to go butt back, chest down to start the downswing. And whatever happens, happens, right? If your sole goal right now is to fix early extension, it really doesn't matter where the ball goes. You're probably going to hit it very poorly to start, but that's okay because it's probably going to get better in the long run. So you really just have to feel like you force that butt back, chest down in the downswing slowly and then see how it goes. Really force that movement to get a feel for what rotating with proper posture actually feels like for the first time. And then try to build it up from there, Tito. Whisker, any suggestions on how to come out of winter hibernation? Where would you start? Just hitting balls, just being able to hit balls into a net at the dome, at the Sims, whatever it may be. Just moving again would be a great start, Whisker. Especially if you aren't staying active through the winter, through the lockdown, just moving would be a good place to start. You're welcome, Drew. Marcus, my tendency is to get off the trail heel early in the downswing. What are your thoughts on keeping that intact with the ground and for how long? I think for most amateur golfers, they can probably benefit from keeping the heel on the ground at impact before it rolls up. And to feel that, you just have to feel like you push into the ground with your entire foot to start the downswing, right? So at the top of the backswing, again, this is all assuming you have a decent backswing, right? So assuming you have a decent backswing, you're loaded into the inside trail foot, inside trail heel 70-80%. I would suggest you try to push, you're like pushing into that inside trail foot, inside trail heel to start the downswing and try to keep that foot on the ball, on the ground at impact before it eventually rolls up. For most amateur golfers, structurally, it will probably improve them if they can keep that heel on the ground, because a lot of players, their heel comes up, their trail hip kind of pushes towards the ball. You lose space. When you run into space, you put the handle higher. You do things to react to that, to try to hit a functional golf shot that's usually band-aids on top of band-aids. So for most amateur golfers, again, I'm not saying for everybody, for most amateur golfers, I do think structurally you can build a better movement pattern if you feel like you step into the ground with your trail foot and keep it on the ground at impact before it rolls up later on, okay? That's what I would suggest for most amateur golfers without knowing what else they're working on. I do think it will probably help more than it would hurt for most players. Garrett, is early extension a result of your poor rotation or incorrect setup? It could be a result of either one. I mean, early extension. It's not like a simple question where you are poorly set up, you're going to early extend. It doesn't work like that. You can have an incorrect setup and not early extend, but you really got to look at the movement as a whole, right? You may be doing something bad in the backswing that's reacting in a negative way, which is why you're early extending, or your concepts of how you're starting your downswing may just be incorrect as well, and that is why you're early extending. So you really have to look at the movement as a whole. Some very tough to pinpoint what is causing the early extension without seeing the actual movement. You're welcome, William. Jim, what are your thoughts about Tiger? Think he will come back from his latest accident? No thoughts. I mean, obviously, you never want to see someone get into a car crash, especially something of that severity, right? Like the only thing that really should be the priority is he hopefully gets a speedy recovery. Hopefully he recovers. He's healthy, and really that's all that really should matter right now, is just being healthy and living a happy, healthy life, right? So not just Tiger, anyone who's in a car accident, just hopefully they will recover nicely and just live a healthy, happy life. You're welcome, Bob. Hey, Mike, you're welcome for the Q&A every Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern time right now. Just curious, what aspect of your game are you working on? Just trying to play more really this year, trying to play more, trying to not pull my hands down too much, trying to be a little less inside out. But really, now that lessons are starting back up again, I'm not really hitting too many balls. Just so many things, so many opportunities going on right now that's kind of taking time away from golf. But at the end of the day, like if I keep doing the things I'm trying to do right now, I'm going to have a lot more time to golf in the coming years. So we'll take it one day at a time. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to try to hit balls when I can. But for now, other things are taking a bigger priority at this moment in time. But I still am going to try to play more golf this year. So we'll see what happens, Mike. You're welcome, Marco. Thank you. Yeah, this hoodie's pretty cool, actually. Like it's really comfy. It's really cozy. It's thick. Hello Kitty's pretty cool. The whole Sanrio crew is pretty cool. So when I saw this hoodie, I kind of like really wanted to get it. Michael, what is the benefit of having little wrist angles and losing angles early? Don't most pros maintain wrist angles until pretty much hands on the trail, thigh on the downswing? So if you watch some of the other videos I talk about the down hinge, you trying to get rid of wrist angles, you trying to down hinge and lose wrist angles early, actually help you have proper wrist angles later into the golf swing. If you try to maintain your wrist angles artificially, you're actually going to dump everything early. You losing angles, you trying to down hinge your wrist back, that will actually help you lean the shaft more into the golf swing. And again, like if you don't think it's a benefit, like you don't have to do it. And it's not personal. It's not just you. If people don't see there be a benefit, that you don't have to try it. I mean, all the videos I do are just suggestions on helping the biggest population of golfers possible, right? You can try it, someone else can try it, and if it doesn't help, it doesn't help, but that's fine. You don't have to do it. But I'm very confident that what I'm suggesting is going to help more players than not. So and like to add to that, like what most pros do, most people don't know what they're trying to do. Most people don't know their intent. Most people don't know what their feels are. It's all speculation and guesswork, unless they're talking, unless you're talking to the coach of that player. And again, like feel and real is not the same. So it doesn't matter what pros are trying to do. What should matter is what you are trying to do for yourself to help you hit better golf shots, to make better swings at it. And that's all this channel is for, is to hopefully give you guys suggestions to hit better golf shots and have more fun on the golf course. Dr. Roger, I hit my driver a lot in the toe. I do notice my face is very closed on takeaway and the top of the backswing. Do you think that is a cause? I mean, there's only one way to find out, right? It's just because you're closed doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna hit it on the toe as a for sure, as a guarantee. All you could try is trying to hit it a little bit, open the face up a little bit more at the setup. Maybe try not to be so closed at the top. See if that helps. But there's so many factors that can go into you hitting it on the toe with the driver. It's tough to pinpoint exactly what is the exact cause. You're welcome, Bill. I'm glad you are enjoying it. Yu Jung, how do you fix too much inside out? So more often than not, most amateur golfers, when they're too inside out, they're sliding the lower body forward too much and they're tilting the upper body back. What I would suggest you do is try to feel like you stay on your back foot to help you not slide forward. And then if you do that and you're still inside out, then you have to feel like your lead shoulder goes more down and around. So why you want to do that is, again, like you go on your lead foot too much slide, too much tilt up the upper body, you're going to be too inside out. If you feel like you stay on your trail foot, that will remove the slide. If you feel like your lead shoulder goes down and around, feeling like you're doing this, this is like literally the anti slide and tilt back. Okay, so you feeling that is not actually going to be that in reality, but you feeling that will help you not do that, not do the slide and tilt, and that should help you reduce the inside out if you're inside out too much. Okay, so that's what I would suggest doing first. Try your best, and you're going to see on that one that was 2 degrees outside in, actually. So I would try your best to stay on your trail foot first, and then try to feel like your lead shoulder goes down and around. I would try those 2 things first, Eugen, and see how that goes. You're welcome, Tito. One more question. If you fight a heel shot on your driver, what can you do to fix it? If you fight a heel shot on your driver, you could try setting up a little bit more towards the toe set of the sweet spot. But usually people who actually hit it on the heel typically are holding onto their wrist angles for too long. The club is not releasing in time. The club is not lining up properly. Down hinging and trying to release the club early, I find, often helps with not hitting it on the heel of the driver. So that's one thing you could look at. Marcus, how do you balance practicing speed versus practicing form? It really depends on what you need, right? Do you need speed more or do you need form more? How much time do you have and how are you generating speed? It really depends on those things. I mean, I think if long term, if you're trying to build a great technical foundational swing that will last you a lifetime, form will take precedence. Once the form settles down, then you can work on speed, right? But it's kind of like you can't be too greedy in terms of what you're trying to do. Like if you're improving your form, you're already improving quite a bit, and you can always practice speed later on. You don't have to try to do too many things at the same time. Patrick, what is the best way to gain club head speed? Swing faster. I think most people don't try to swing all out in fear of losing the golf ball. If the intent is try to swing faster, then and increase club head speed, try to swing faster. You have to raise the intent. It's like lifting weights, right? Like if you're lifting weights, you're lifting in the gym. You're trying to do a PR. You're trying to squat the most you can. You're trying to like lift the most weights. The intent has to be there. You have to drive hard. You have to engage your muscles. It's all the same stuff. You grip the bar hard. You engage your muscles. You push as hard as you can in the gym. It's very similar stuff to swinging a golf club, right? You just got to prime yourself to swing fast if swinging fast and gaining club head speed is the sole intent. Not sure how to pronounce this guy's name, so I'll just read out the question. Assuming you have a good backswing and a good rotation with an inside-out path, how would a focus on with a ball that has too much draw straight at ball flight? Thanks. If you have too much draw, I would maybe try to reduce the inside out. If your ball is starting right of the target as a righty and drawing back to the target without it over curving, that's a great thing. If you're over curving the ball, you might want to try to feel straight arm finishes so that the arms don't overtake the torso rotation, because when the arms overtake the torso rotation, the club face can also turn quite a bit. So trying to feel like you finish with long arm finishes should help reduce the draw curvature. If you have a decent swing already, I would work on that first. Brandon, what is the best tip you can give someone who's misses a push slice? If you have a push slice, I would just try your best to close the face as early as you can in the downswing. Chances are, if you're hitting a push slice, your face is very, very open at impact. I would suggest you try to close the face and square the face as early as possible in the downswing. So as soon as you start the downswing, feel like you start closing the face and see what happens from there. Brian, when I try to not hinge, I hit my driver very well, but I end up hitting a lot of fat shots on iron spots. Really tough to say, really. Without seeing the swing, it's very tough to say what exactly is the cause of it. So tough to say, unfortunately. Can't really help you too much with based on this. You're welcome, Yu Jung. Yeah, try it at the range. Hope it goes well. Alan, hey Larry, for someone who only has time to practice 1-2 days as a week, what one practice technique would you recommend to work on? Honestly, if you practice 1 to 2 times a week, it's actually quite a good amount of time, and you can work on a lot of things. You can improve a lot, but there's no one practice technique that I can recommend you work on without knowing what you need to work on, without knowing what you can possibly improve on. So I would suggest like you working with someone you trust, whether it's someone in your area or we can work online, whatever it is. But it's tough to say what you should work on without knowing what is best for you at this time. Appreciate the kind words, Bob. One day I will be one of the greatest of all time. Maybe not today, but one day I will be one of the best in the world. Whisker, do left-handed, your watch is on your right hand. I am a right-handed person. I don't do anything on my left hand. My whoop ends on my right hand. I don't wear anything on my left hand just because when I golf, my glove is on my left hand, and I don't really like things on my left hand. So that's all. Velocity technology. Hey Larry, last week I was asking about hitting 60, 80-yard shots. Your no hinge and west system video is working great. It's so consistent, and I shocked myself how close I could hit some. That is awesome, Velocity. So keep doing that. Keep practicing it so that you can calibrate your awareness to get your desired distances. In terms of your thing that you notice is it comes out lower trajectory than I'm used to seeing, and you like it, and it still has enough spin. That's great. I mean, it's totally not a bad thing to have a lower trajectory but still have good spin. So whatever works well. Some people like a higher trajectory, some people like a lower trajectory, some people like mid trajectory. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's replicable. Like you can repeat it, and it's predictable. That's all that matters. You're welcome, Jean-Philippe. I'm glad that you like what you're seeing and it's helping out. That's the point of the channel. In terms of like my swing and how I get the trail elbow to externally rotate, I don't ever think about externally rotating my trail elbow in the downswing. Now I do have pretty good mobility, so that's one thing I want to make sure I keep as I get older and older. And even if I don't have as much time to practice, I want to make sure I put time into making sure my body is in good physical health for not only golf but in life. So if it may be just a case of your mobility might not be as good, you just got to work on it. But I've never actually thought about trying to externally rotate my trail elbow ever in my swing. So can't really tell you how I do it, really. This is pretty good timing. I'm gonna answer. Yeah. So Sam Crawford's. I'm gonna answer that last question. I'm gonna call it a day. I just got something to do at 7 o'clock today. So this has been a pretty productive 45 minute chat right now. We'll see. We'll do this again next Thursday at 6 p.m. and I'm gonna try to keep doing this weekly at 6 p.m. Until for at least the end of the off season. Once the season starts, I may have to find a different time as hopefully I'm playing golf. So we'll see what happens. So Sam's asking, what would you recommend to a high handicapper who struggles with fairway woods, utility irons, or a Q3 hybrid, or just practice more with fairway woods? If you're struggling with if you're struggling with all longer clubs, there's a technical deficiency in your swing. So really, I would suggest you look for what that technical deficiency is in your golf swing, and then it should help regardless if you're hitting a fairway wood, a utility iron, or a hybrid. You should be able to hit either one decently. I mean, a utility iron, a driving iron is the hardest hit of those, but you should be able to at least hit a fairway wood or a 2-3 hybrid decently if your swing was decent. So in terms of practicing, you have to make sure you practice the thing that will help you get better contact and better results, right? So I would suggest you got looking at what are the deficiencies in your swing, what is making you a high handicapper, not a mid handicapper, right? So look at those things first before just trying to practice with a fairway wood, just hoping for good contact. There has to be a reason for why your contact or why your results are not the way you want to see it. So hope that helps. Erwin, yeah, wear your watch on your right. Don't wear your watch on the right just because I wear my Whoop band on my right. Wear it wherever it makes you happy. Wear it on your ankle, wear it on your watch, wear it as a necklace, wherever it may be. Do what makes you happy. So that's that. You're welcome, Whisker. You're welcome, Sam. So let's call it a day on that one. That was a pretty productive 45 minutes, guys. We'll see each other. We'll do this again next Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Again, we'll make this a regular thing for maybe at least the next 4 weeks. Closer to the season, we'll reevaluate. But thanks everyone for tuning in. A lot of good questions today. Any questions, leave it in the comments when this video becomes a replay. And then we'll see you guys next Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Thanks, guys. Have a great night. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks, guys.